So this lecture is going to be about warm and cool colors. So warm and cool colors is a concept that goes back a long time. Even since like the beginning of mankind, as far back as we've been able to study and anthropologists have been able to study, before they were naming colors and coming up with, words like red, blue, green, purple, stuff like that, there was really, in a lot of cultures, only two. Right? They had a word for the warm colors and a word for the cool colors. So even though there's not like a temperature or a thermometer that you can use to measure the temperature of colors, it's a psychological concept, okay? So warm colors, you can see here, and this is kind of something that different artists will debate about, and depending on how you want to define it, it can change. But I have it set here where from yellow-green to red-violet are the warm colors, and from purple to or violet to green are the cool colors, okay? And you can split this right along. It typically falls somewhere in here, right? Somewhere along one of these lines is typically where most people would consider warms and cools. Some people like to divide it straight along here where all greens, even yellow greens, are considered cool. And that's just up to you. If you look though in a painting, typically yellow greens look warm compared to straight green or blue green. So that's why I put it over there. Now, the way that you would use this is it makes a pretty big difference when you use this, okay? So when we're talking about warms and cools, warms typically engender feelings like passion, rage, anger. We think of warmth, flames, spices, just, desert, stuff like that. Warm things come to mind when we see warm colors in a painting. Cool colors makes us think of cold, sleepy, dark, peaceful, restful, calming type colors is usually the response when we have cool colors in an image, okay? And by doing these, when you're working on something, even just using a little bit of warmth and a little bit of coolness to your colors, if you're doing something that's, say, gray, for example, adding just a little bit of warm and cool drastically changes the perception of your piece, instead of just using one monochromatic gray. So, for example, have this image right here he's a comic book artist named Adam Hughes, and he's amazing. He's one of my favorites, and he does a lot of work with markers, okay? So these are, all he's using is a set of cool gray markers and a set of warm gray markers. They're both gray markers, but one is just slightly shifted warmer and one is slightly shifted cooler. And by doing this and using the different values available within those hues, he's able to create an image that feels, while not completely fleshed out color-wise, it still gives an idea of what's going on, right? The cool gray in the space makes it feel cold and dark and deep, while the warm gray on her face and other parts of her costume and her hair make it feel almost like flesh. And by contrasting the cool gray with the warm gray, we get a really good idea of, what kind of surface these things are and what their relative color is. So just adding a little bit of warmth and coolness to an image can be enough to take it from a flat black and white image to something that you could consider colored, okay? Now, let's look at some examples of this. I have here a quick T-Rex sketch I did really fast with a flat green done in the background, okay? Now, I have this multiply layer here with just only gray values, okay? And with just those gray values on it, you can kind of get a sense of form, right? We can see that underneath is in the shadow, underneath the eye, inside the mouth, right? Those places are all a little bit darker, okay? And we can even turn on our color layer so we could see, so you could see the teeth and the tongue and stuff like that in the eye. And it doesn't do a great job, right? It's not fantastic, okay? So using, however, the exact same patterns, just using a cool and a warm overlay instead of a neutral gray, if we turn this off and turn on our overlay layer, it completely changes things, right? We're using the exact same values as with the multiply layer, but instead we're using overlay with a warm color on top and a cool color on bottom. And already it starts to bring so much more life and information to the image. We can tell that there's a warm light above and there's a cool shadow below, and it really starts to make it come alive, and it seems more detailed even though we're using the exact same values. If we turn on our color layer, it even adds more to it because it's interacting with those colors. So keeping that in mind, that you want have a relationship between your warm colors and cool colors is really going to make a big difference in your art. Typically, when we're outside, light is going to be warm and shadows are going to be cool. Not always, but that's usually, the standard sort of feel. If you reverse that though, you can get some really beautiful and really interesting color combinations.